Hi, I'm Ruth Dunning, political analyst for GHS TV and guest host for this summer edition of Inside the News. Today we are talking to the candidates for the position 5 on the Shelby County Board of Education. With us now is Ken Hoover. Mr. Hoover is a member of the Shelby County Schools Committee on Attendance, Boundaries, and wrote the first ever school rezoning policy for the system. He is founder and chairman of the Watchdogs Dads program at Germantown Middle and a PTA Lifetime Achievement Award winner. Mr. Hoover is founder and owner of Supplier Info, an internet software firm. Thank you, Mr. Hoover. We're so happy that you're here to join us to talk about the Shelby County School Board issues. First of all, I'd like to ask you what qualifies you to be on the school board?
Well, thank you for having me, first of all. It's wonderful to have this opportunity. And I'd say at the top of my list of qualifications would be I have 4 children in Shelby County schools. In fact, Paul's on the camera during this show. I have another son here at Germantown High School. Evan is at the middle school, and my baby, Catherine, is at Germantown Elementary School. She's a second grader, and she's in the class of 2020. So I have a deep, long-term commitment to the success of Shelby County schools. And I'd add to that I think I bring some executive experiences that are going to be pertinent in some of the issues on the horizon for Shelby County schools. I spent 10 years with Thomas & Betts, the last 4 as vice president and general manager. And during that stint, I supervised 11 factories around the world, had an operating budget that I prepared and managed of over $250 million. And if you look at some of the issues on the horizon for Shelby County schools, and particularly in the budget area, where we just approved a budget with a $17 million deficit, I think those executive skills are going to be a valuable asset to the board.
Does that $17 million deficit bother you? Is that a problem for you?
You know, I grew up in a conservative household. I had a conservative household. And I think every family in America knows that it's not a good idea to spend money that you don't have. The rainy day fund should be reserved for a rainy day, and right now it's only cloudy. And I know that it's been a bad economy, but state funding is up slightly this year, county funding is up slightly this year. That trend's not going to hold. The state's trying to plug a $150 million hole in their budget. Their funding for K-12 education is very unlikely to increase next year. Meanwhile, we've spent our reserves down to almost the legal minimum, and we've put in place a spending level that's $17 million higher than our current funding. Something's going to have to give, and I think it's going to bring about some difficult decisions, and that's where I think that executive budgeting experience is going to be necessary. Yes. Okay.
What then are your goals for the next 4 years? If you're elected, what 4 goals would you have for the...
I'd start with raise the bar. Shelby County Schools is an excellent system. We produce thousands of terrific graduates every year, but we compete in a global economy. The state of Tennessee ranks 41st in education among the 50 states. Senator Bill Frist headed a committee who established a goal to be first in the Southeast within 5 years, and I embrace that goal. The beginning step in that process is to raise the bar, raise the expectations for our students. And then how do we help those students meet those expectations? I think the key to that is parental involvement. Good students have involved parents. Students who excel tend to have involved parents. That's the greatest asset we have in Shelby County schools, involved parents. We need to leverage that asset. And so I would like to see us develop methods for measuring and promoting, improving on that great asset, but measuring and improving parental involvement. At a board level, there's a couple of other issues. One is we need special school district status. Our fate as Shelby County Schools is not in our own hands. At any time, the Memphis City School Board could vote to dissolve their charter, and it would effectively consolidate the 2 school systems. We would have no say in that process. The only way to prevent that is for us to have special school district status. It is a top priority for the board and has been for some time now. I would think that's something that's very important to get done in this next term. And then finally, I'd like to bring more transparency to the board.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to bring more transparency to the board. Transparency is the lifeblood of any government entity, any government body. When you lose transparency, you lose the public trust. And we've engaged in some actions on our board that are not conducive to transparency, or they're not helpful for transparency, like calling board members in one by one to meet with the superintendent so they can ask tough questions behind closed doors. That's not good for transparency. Calling emergency meetings so that parents are not aware that the board is about to take up an issue and are not able to be present. That's not good for transparency. Having back-to-back meetings to eliminate first and second reading requirements. That's not good for transparency. I think the sunshine laws in Tennessee are good laws. They're impossible to enforce. The only way to ensure transparency on a public body is to elect officials who have a deep-seated commitment to transparency, and that's what I hope to bring to the board.
Okay. Let's go back to consolidation.
Okay.
If consolidation, despite everyone's best efforts, everyone who's opposed to it, assuming consolidation occurs, what can we do? What then is best for Shelby County schools?
Well, when you say consolidation, you're talking about metro consolidation?
Yes.
Okay. The metro charter is almost certainly, has been written, but the proposed metro charter will almost certainly preclude any school consolidation.
Let's rewrite that then and include the schools. Let's assume the schools consolidate. What then can Shelby County schools do to kind of ensure their autonomy?
Well, obviously, if the two school systems combine into one, we won't have any autonomy. And the majority of the student population would be made up of residents of Memphis, and just like the county commission, the majority of the school board would come from residents of Memphis. And people assign racial overtones to these conversations, and they say, oh, it's a race issue, and it's, to me, is absolutely not. Look across the United States at all of the systems that have more than 100,000 students. None of them rank highly. Large school systems are difficult to manage, they're expensive, and they don't achieve well. And I don't care if you're talking about Chicago, Los Angeles, New York City, Philadelphia, or Memphis City schools. Taking a 104,000 student system and making it a 150,000 student system will make it much, much more difficult to manage, and will put our kids in the same situation that the kids in Los Angeles and Chicago and everywhere else are that are part of a mega school district. That's why I think it's imperative that the two systems not combine.
And a lot of ways to rank schools to see who's good, who's bad. Teacher accountability comes up. Do you have any thoughts on teacher accountability, how that can be done without making the teachers unhappy, without making parents unhappy? Is that something you've given any thought to?
Oh, absolutely. It's a big part of this race to the top education that just passed. The Tennessee State Legislature approved, or actually requires now, that student achievement be used as part of teacher evaluation. And I see two different perspectives here. As I talk to teachers, most teachers don't have any problem with being evaluated for their performance. They're not afraid to be evaluated. The issue that they raise is, I as a teacher don't choose my students. I don't choose who's assigned to my class. And the fact is, some kids learn faster and better than other kids. So the teacher that's teaching honors calculus is going to have higher student achievement scores than the one that is teaching remedial math. Higher growth scores too, even if you just look at what did I learn this year. That's a very valid point. On the other hand, in Shelby County, we spend more than $1 billion a year on education. The public demands accountability for those funds. We grade our schools on student achievement. We're going to have to use that as a component of teacher evaluation. We just have to be sure that we're normalizing that so that the teacher that's got those remedial students is being compared to other teachers with remedial students, not the AP calculus teacher.